I am lying in a hospital bed right now staring at my phone screen. The number staring back at me makes no sense. $327. That is all that remains of nearly $20,000 my wife and I saved over 3 years. I need spinal surgery. Without it, I might never walk normally again. When I asked Lauren where our money went, she looked me straight in the eyes and said something that shattered everything I thought I knew about our marriage. Before we dive into this story, let me know in the comments where you are watching from today. If you have ever felt like the person you trusted most put you last, hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. What Lauren told me that day changed my life forever, and I think you need to hear what happened next. My name is Casey, and I have been working as a construction engineer for almost 10 years now. It is not glamorous work. I spend most of my days on job sites covered in dust making sure buildings go up the way they are supposed to. But I have always taken pride in what I do. I build things that last. I thought my marriage was the same way. I met Lauren 6 years ago at a barbecue hosted by a mutual friend. She was standing by the drink table, laughing at something someone said, and I remember thinking she had the warmest smile I had ever seen. We talked for hours that night. She asked me about my work, genuinely interested in the details most people find boring. She remembered the name of the project I was working on when I mentioned it weeks later. That kind of attention made me feel seen in a way I had not experienced before. We got married after dating for a year. The wedding was small, just close family and friends in her parents' backyard. I did not mind. I was not marrying a party. I was marrying Lauren. Those first few years felt like a dream. We would cook dinner together almost every night, taking turns choosing recipes. We made spreadsheets for our finances, planning our future like a team. We talked about buying a house someday, maybe having kids. Everything felt possible because we were building it together. The idea for an emergency fund came to me after something happened at work. A guy on my crew named Victor fell from scaffolding and broke his leg in 3 places. He did not have savings, and his insurance barely covered anything. I watched him lose his apartment while he was still in a wheelchair. It terrified me. That night, I came home and told Lauren we needed to prepare for the unexpected. She agreed immediately. We set up a separate savings account and committed to putting money into it every single month no matter what. For 3 years, I worked overtime whenever I could. I took extra projects, even the ones nobody else wanted. I drove a truck that broke down twice a month because I did not want to spend money on a new one. We skipped vacations. We ate at home instead of going to restaurants. Every sacrifice felt worth it because I knew we were building security together. When that account hit nearly $20,000, I felt prouder than I had ever felt about anything. That money represented discipline, partnership, and trust. Then, about 6 months ago, I started having pain in my lower back. At first, I thought I had just pulled a muscle moving some equipment. Construction work is hard on the body, and I figured it would heal on its own. I bought some over-the-counter painkillers and kept working, but the pain did not go away. It got worse. It started spreading down my left leg, and some mornings I could barely get out of bed. I began losing feeling in my foot, which scared me more than the pain itself. Lauren finally convinced me to see a doctor. I went to a specialist named Dr. Harrison, an older man with a calm voice and steady hands. He ran tests, took scans, and then sat me down with a serious expression. He told me I had a severe herniated disc that was compressing my sciatic nerve. He used words like progressive damage and permanent impairment. The bottom line was simple. If I did not have surgery within 2 to 3 months, I might lose the ability to walk properly for the rest of my life. The cost would be around $15,000 after insurance covered its portion. I sat in that office, feeling the weight of those numbers, and then I felt something else. Relief. We had the money. This was exactly why we had sacrificed so much. I drove home that day planning how to tell Lauren, already grateful for our past selves, who had been wise enough to prepare. When I explained everything to her that evening, she listened quietly. She held my hand and said she was sorry I was going through this. But there was something in her eyes that I could not quite read. A flicker of something that did not match her words. I was too focused on my own situation to pay attention to it. That was a mistake I would regret. 2 weeks after my appointment with Dr. Harrison, I sat down to transfer money for the surgery deposit. I opened the banking app on my phone, expecting to see our safety net waiting for me. Instead, I saw $327.14. I blinked. I closed the app and opened it again. The number did not change. I called the bank, thinking there had to be some kind of error or fraud. The customer service representative was polite but clear. She read off a list of transactions over the past 2 weeks. Multiple withdrawals, transfers, and purchases totaling more than $19,000. Every single one was made using the debit card linked to my wife. There was no fraud. There was no mistake. Lauren had emptied our account. I sat in our living room for an hour, staring at the wall. My mind kept trying to find explanations that made sense. Maybe there was an emergency I did not know about. Maybe someone in her family was in trouble. Maybe she had a plan to put the money back and just had not told me yet. I needed to believe there was a reason, because the alternative was too painful to accept. Lauren came home around 6 that evening. She walked in, carrying shopping bags and humming to herself. When she saw my face, she stopped. I asked her about the account. I kept my voice calm even though my hands were shaking. She set down her bags slowly, and for a moment she looked like someone who had been caught. Then her expression shifted into something I had never seen before. It was defensive, almost defiant. She told me she had given the money to her sister Megan. Megan was getting married in 3 weeks to her fiancé Derek, and they had run into financial problems. The venue they wanted was expensive. The caterer had raised prices. The dress Megan had dreamed of since she was a little girl cost more than expected. Lauren said she could not stand by and watch her baby sister lose her dream wedding, so she fixed it. I asked her why she had not talked to me first. This was our money. Our emergency fund. The fund I had worked overtime for years to build. She said she knew I would say no, so she made the decision herself. She called it a family matter, as if I was not part of her family. As if 5 years of marriage meant nothing. Then I reminded her about my surgery. I told her again about the nerve damage, about the deadline Dr. Harrison had given me, about the risk of permanent disability. I watched her face as I spoke, looking for concern, for regret, for anything that showed she understood the gravity of what she had done. Her response hit me like a physical blow. She said my surgery could wait. She said it was Megan's special day. She told me surgeries get rescheduled all the time, but a wedding only happens once. She said those words without flinching, like she had rehearsed them, like she genuinely believed that her sister's party was more important than my ability to walk. I spent that night on the couch, not because she asked me to, but because I could not bring myself to lie next to her. I kept replaying her words in my head. You can wait. It is her special day. I realized I was not angry. I was something worse. I was heartbroken. The next morning, I called Megan. I tried to stay calm as I explained the situation. I told her I needed at least some of the money back for a medical emergency. She sounded surprised at first, almost confused. Then her tone changed. She said Lauren had given her the money as a gift, not a loan. She said she could not possibly return it now, because everything was already booked and paid for. She made it sound like I was being unreasonable for even asking. I called Patricia next. She is Lauren. And Megan is mother. And I thought maybe she could talk some sense into her daughters. I was wrong. Patricia told me I was being selfish. She said Lauren had always been the responsible one, always sacrificing for the family. And now that she had done something nice for her sister, I wanted to ruin it. She asked me why I could not just be supportive. When I brought up my medical condition, she dismissed it. She said men always exaggerate their pain. She said I should toughen up and stop complaining about a backache. I hung up the phone and sat in silence. In that moment, I understood something that had been true for a long time, but that I had refused to see. To Lauren's family, I was not really family at all. I was convenient. I was a provider. I was someone whose needs could be pushed aside whenever something more important came along. And to them, almost anything was more important than me. The weeks leading up to Megan's wedding were some of the hardest of my life. My condition deteriorated rapidly. The pain became constant, a burning that radiated from my spine down through my leg. I started using a cane to get around the house. Some nights the pain was so intense that I could not sleep at all. I would lie awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering how everything had gone so wrong. Lauren was barely home during this time. She was always running errands for the wedding, helping Megan with fittings and tastings and 100 other details. When she was home, she acted like nothing had happened between us. She would ask me how I was feeling, but she never waited for the answer. She had already moved on to checking her phone or making another call about flower arrangements. I felt invisible in my own home. I was watching my wife plan someone else's celebration while I struggled to walk to the bathroom.